Hello my fellow artists. Today I'm going to show you the backstage of my studio. It's really important how you can organize your working space before you start practicing. Let's talk about materials we're going to use for our course. I will explain you the whole range of pencils, pens, water brushes, liners, ink pencils, and anything that you might need for your art. We will talk about watercolor sets, and I will give you a big list of materials which you need to order before the first lesson.
Let's talk about how to organize your working space. What will you need to keep handy next to you on your table so you just can relax and enjoy the process of art practicing? Just a few simple things to do and we're ready. I never struggle with keeping my art studio as clean and organized as I like. I have a glass table in my studio, so for my artwork I prefer to stick my paper on the board. It's just a simple board you can get in any craft shop, and I stick my paper to this board using masking tape. There are two main reasons why you should do that. First of all, it will create a nice and neat frame board, especially if you work with a background. You might see it in the work I use as example. And the second reason to do so is that you can lean your board to create those drops and tears, as I call them. It's easy to control, and your paper will always stay straight and flat. What do you need to have next to you to be able to draw and not to get annoyed and feel comfortable sitting and enjoying the process? First of all, I'm going to talk to you about pencils. There are a couple of different types of pencils, and the most common one is a graphite wooden pencil. I hope you do know how to sharpen it, but don't worry if you don't. I will explain how to do it properly so you can use all the advantage of this pencil and use all the abilities. During this course, we're going to use different pencils, different softness of them we will need. Most common ones are H or 2H. They are much harder than any others and leaving a really nice and sharp lines. But they're not really good for hatching. So another type of pencil is a full graphite pencils, which you also need to sharpen. They are also could be different softness. Most common ones I'm using will be B or 2B pencil. I would say they are my favorite. Mechanical pencils are also very good for small details and little things you need to correct. Next, but also very important tool is our brush. There are two types of brushes, synthetics and natural. Natural brushes are made from natural hair of squirrel or pony or any other animal. I do believe you already ordered your first set of brushes. I'm going to use synthetic brushes this time, and they will be different size and shapes. Flat brushes, I do adore working with them, and round brushes. This brush I'm showing to you, this is really nice Chinese brush. It's made of natural hair, and it's perfect for working with ink, but you can use it for watercolor too. So if you find anything to try or you want to experiment with other type of brushes, you're more than welcome to do so. Or maybe you get somewhere in your cupboard, something waiting for you there to create a miracle. I'm sure your set of brush will contain different types of brushes we're going to use. Like this one, it's perfect for creating lovely little strokes or textures for leaves or birds. It's something that you can play with. So stay positive and try and check what your brushes can do for you, what strokes and what effects and textures you can get out of them. You will use most of them for different type of lines, and we're going to try them all. I'll show you how to play with this. And now when we had a look at brushes and pencils and different types of them, let's talk about liners and ink pens. I love working with them, especially for my sketching. Sometimes I'm mixing it with watercolor. I like that lovely lines you can put next to your forms and shapes. I love using them for hatching and obviously for signing my work. They can be different size, like 0.2, 0.5. They can be different in softness and thickness. You just need get a few of them and try. They could look like a proper markers, and it depends on what scale you're working. You might need using different thickness of lines. So it's a good tool to have, and I highly suggest you to get a few different sizes. Also, I wanted to introduce you to this funny brush. I recently started using it. It's a water brush. This is a brush with a special water reservoir. If you're going to practice outside in the parks or in your garden, it's really handy because you don't have to carry a bottle of water and wash your brush all the time. So it's enough to create a proper sketch, proper size sketch, or even two, depends how much you use it. But I will possibly explain and we'll try to create something with this brush too. Good fun and good effects you can achieve with this one. And of course, a jar of water. I suggest to keep it really close to you, and most of the time I put 2 jars. The thing is, water gets dirty quite quickly, and if you don't change it, your work will become dirty and your colors will be really messy. So put 2 glasses with water next to you. It's very handy. And now we can talk about palettes and the types of palettes we will need. I must admit there are so many types of them, shapes. Even in your set of color will be some sort of palette, plastic palette. You can see I didn't wash it. But as much as I like using my plastic palettes, you can use just a normal white ceramic plate for it. It's also really nice. I always ask my students to have a piece of paper or old sketch book to use for your palette. You can mix your colors just on the paper. You can try the brush strokes, you can see the effects and check the color combinations you're making. I wanted to introduce you one of the media I'm using sometimes in my watercolor. It calls masking fluid. It's a special fluid you can protect your paper or areas you don't want to cover with the paint. Please use only special cheap brushes for this media because it destroys them completely and you will never clean it again. So I have a couple of old brushes I'm using for application of a masking fluid. And another little helper I always keep next to me is a spray bottle with water. Find a bottle which you can use to create that mist over your painting or paper to be able to paint wet on wet technique. It's really useful tool. And of course, metallic ruler to cut our paper if we work on unusual sizes, with our craft knives, which we also using to sharpen our pencils. So get it all together, keep it all on the side, put it in the box next to you, and it will be really easy to find when you need it all. Little helpers like plastic pipettes are also really useful if you need to add some media into your water or add some water straight on your paper. It's cheap, but it's really useful. I like using them. And the last but not the least media I'm using with my watercolor is the Oxgale solution. That's exactly when I'm using my pipettes to add a few drops of this solution into my water. So when I mix my colors, it will help to create amazing mixing effects and fantastic way of mixing your watercolor straight on the paper. So a few drops of this solution into your water, so when you water your brush, solution will get into the paint and the miracle will happen. Let's try some of this media together. I hope you will enjoy it. And of course you are allowed to use some gouache paint. Gouache is also a water-based media paint. It's maybe a bit lighter and easier to use than acrylics, but the same idea behind it. I use it not often, but sometimes if I need to fix something or put a highlight, I will give you directions of how mixing your gouache with watercolor and create amazing illustrations with this. I keep my box with tissues next to me to get access of the water of the paper. If I put too much, also can create a lots of textures with this, like clouds and flowers. And then obviously you can get the excess of water from your brush to clean it and before starting mixing different colors. And my big helper, my iPad, is always next to me. I use a lot of reference photos for my art, and if I keep it right in front of me, I don't have to worry about printing photos. I can enlarge and see more details of the image. It's really handy, and I keep it on my sound deck. So I'm listening to nice music while I'm creating and painting. That's all. We set up our table. We know what we need, what we have to organize before the miracle. We have our paint open and ready, water, jars, brushes and pencils, music, iPads, other medias we're going to add to our watercolors, and we're ready.
So now, when we're all sorted and well organized, we know all about the materials and tools we can use, we have no reason to say why we couldn't give it a go, why we didn't try or become an artist. I hope you all managed to get everything from the list of materials I provided before this course. And now we have everything set up and we're ready to go.